today on the witness stand we've got Dr. Hannah Wishart, the programme leader here at the University of Sunderland. Welcome to you on the witness stand.
Thank you.
Firstly, we're going to discuss your career and how you ended up here at the University of Sunderland in the position that you're in. Do you want to give us just a brief overview of sort of what your intentions were for your career and then how you ended up here?
Well, I initially wanted to be a police officer. I did the law degree thinking that I would bide my time until the applications would open up, because the recession hit when I was doing my degree, so I had to wait. And then I applied for a master's because I was still waiting for the police to open up. Did my master's, and then someone said on a whim, why don't you just apply for a PhD? And I said, well, okay. So I applied and I got in. And then the police opened up and I applied for Sellafield, which is the power plant, to be a police officer in, I think it's like Cumbria now. Got through the application stage and I went to do the fitness test. But when I was working part-time at Asda while I was doing my PhD, I slipped due to a leaky fridge, hurt my wrist, and then I couldn't do the fitness test. And then due to other complications, I couldn't do a manual job. So I continued with my PhD, which I did at Manchester. Managed to get some teaching experience, and then I just loved it. And then I just came here after, well, in the last sort of 2 years of my PhD. And then a full-time job came up, I think it was a year and a half ago, and then I just got the job and I've been here ever since, really.
And what did you do your PhD on?
So my PhD is multidisciplinary, so it looks at youth justice, so why children sort of kill and how we accommodate them if they have developmental immaturity. So it brings in the neuroscience of brain development to sort of have that other perspective on how they mature, what types of capacities they have. Are they going to be more impulsive than someone who is just normal developing? So I bring all of that in to basically state that we need a defence for them if they kill, and potentially raising the minimum age of criminal responsibility.
What do you think the age should be for criminal responsibility?
Round about 14, 15. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. We've had 5 bills through Parliament, nothing's happened to them. The latest bill is from 2021 version, and it's still stuck in the House of Lords and nothing's happened to it.
What's the oldest that a country holds someone criminally responsible?
18. I think it's Spain.
Oh, is it? That's interesting.
And the lowest is some African states literally don't have one. They don't have a minimum age. But the average across Europe is probably about 15, 16. And in Scotland it's 12.
How do you write a PhD that is so ridiculously long? How do you actually go about writing that?
Well, the first thing that you need to do is, it's usually in the application process. You write a proposal and you got to have an original contribution. So even if you don't have a fully cemented idea, a fantastic idea, you need to have an idea that's good enough for them to say, well, actually, this might turn into a great PhD, and that's where you start. So I wrote my PhD proposal on Dole and Copax and minimum age of criminal responsibility, and I brought in that neuroscience. So I knew where I was going to go, but I didn't know what my original idea was, my argument. And what you do is research. You critically analyse the law and you question it, and then you try to sort of break up your PhD into chapters. Because where I did mine, it was 80,000 words. So in chapter 1, that's like you sort of framing the problem, and then you go into that legal theory detail, and then the practice, and then you sort of conclude it. So it's all about breaking it up, because looking at it as a whole, it's a mammoth task, and it might put a lot of people off. But it's like that with sort of any essay that you do, even your dissertation. Break it up into small chunks. That's the best way to sort of compartmentalise it.
What do you think was the most challenging part about writing your dissertation, your PhD?
Having not so much money. Mine wasn't funded, so I didn't get a scholarship. I had to pay for mine as I did it, and I had to work on the side to live.
Right, so it wasn't through the university?
No.
Sometimes university offer that kind of scholarship, don't they?
Yes, so the university that I was at, the bulk of the students who had PhDs and they were studying them had scholarships, and a lot of them were international, but I wasn't bright enough to get through to the scholarship. I just wasn't. So I had to work for it, and now that I've passed it, I appreciate how much hard work it takes.
Yeah, but you don't regret taking on that financial struggle to get through it?
No, because it's worth it in the end. I'm in the job that I wanted to be in.
Yeah.
I enjoy my job. It's different every day. I get to interact with students. I get to research as well. So I don't just teach, I run the programme, I can write a journal article, I can present at a conference. There hasn't been one that's come up in Mexico or anywhere nice and sunny yet, but I'm still hoping, fingers crossed, that I can. But I get to do, my job is quite varied, and that's what I like about it.
So obviously the route that you took into teaching, obviously not your original career plan, but it's something that you have found very fulfilling. And do you think it's as fulfilling as it would have been to be in the police, or do you think it's even more so?
I think it's more fulfilling. Doing a police officer role where you're just sort of adhering to the law and you're enforcing it, that's completely different to what I do now. I critically engage in the law. I can suggest reform, and I can transfer that knowledge to people that could be future police officers. I wouldn't get that if I was in the police.
Yeah. And if any of the students that sort of watch this or listen wanted to go on to do a PhD, I know a lot of people in our year want to go on to teach, and the other various roles that they would use a PhD for, how would they go about applying for a PhD? Where's the starting point?
The first thing to do is speak to someone who is doing one or has one completed in the faculty. For example, Pardis, she reviews applications for PhDs. You need to have a good proposal, so that is the first hurdle. Get advice on an idea that you have. Get a lecturer of yours to review it so you can improve it. And then you're at the point where you can fill in the application form. Choose a university that has the experience to supervise you. Don't go to somewhere that hasn't got that expertise, because it makes it harder. And I've known from personal experience, not having someone in your area, when you're in a meeting with them, they can't comment on the content of your PhD, so there's not that much direction. Try to push yourself out your comfort zone. Don't necessarily go to the university that you did your degree at. Go somewhere else, because it can open a lot of other doors. If you want to go into teaching in university, PhDs are necessary now. While you're doing your PhD, get some teaching experience. Every single university is crying out for markers and for teaching assistants or academic tutors. Get some experience, so when you come to finalising a PhD, you've got the teaching experience. Try and present at a conference, publish, do some extracurricular, become a head of a charity or be involved in a board or a committee. Get that experience, because it will help with your application.
Yeah, and how long did it take you to complete your PhD?
Well, due to COVID and illness, it took me about 9 years, part-time.
Part-time?
Yeah.
And what's the average length of someone completing a PhD?
Full-time, it's 3 years. And then you have a fourth write-up year, which you don't pay for. So if you don't get a scholarship, you pay for the 3 years, and then the fourth is write-up and you don't pay for. Part-time, it's 6 years, and then your 7th year is your write-up.